ideology does, and the radical leftists are also very good at this, is that a convenient locale for the existence of evil, if you reflexively identify the patriarchy with evil, well, first of all, that's a powerful idea. It's independent of its broad merit. It's true. Now, it's not the only truth, and it's not the complete truth, but it's true. The cause of the trouble they see around them in the world, and maybe even the disquiet in their own heart, is the malevolent inadequacy of their society. Yeah, don't forget about the evil and corruption that exists in your own heart. Nature, this wondrous goddess as portrayed by the anti-human environmentalists, and that wonderful goddess nature is also trying to make you ill and kill you at all times, and on the demonic enemy. And so it's up to the centrists on both sides to deal with this. I've been talking to a lot of the optimist rationalist types, which is that from a material perspective, in terms of absolute privation, worldwide, humanity is way better off on virtually every dimension you could possibly measure than ever. And even point out that the role of the left is to provide a conscientious voice for that's constantly attending to the fact of continuing disparity, regardless of absolute level of wealth. And fair enough. But having said all that, it's a great mystery that incremental optimism is not sufficiently motivating. And I defy anyone to go read 10,000 comments on my YouTube channels and not come away with a much refreshed view of human nature. The comments are, in the main, unbelievably positive, and not in a naive sense. They're positive in a thoughtful sense and in a communal sense, because the people who are making comments on the lectures are also commenting on each other. And there's ideological babble on both sides. In the media attacks that have been directed towards me, they're not just directed towards me. First, they're directed to who they think I am, so that's kind of interesting to begin with. But more perniciously, those who are hypothetically following me, knowing them. And why is that exactly a problem? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing with them? Just out of curiosity. What do you think if you had your druthers that in my very active aid, I'm doing something immoral enough to be parodied, let's say, as Red Skull? And then I thought about that a bunch too. I thought, well, what is it with men, the men that I'm speaking to, let's say, positively? Why do they come to my lectures, the biblical lectures even, which is very surprising, right? Because what the hell are men doing at a biblical lecture, especially young men, especially when they could go do anything else and they have to pay for it? If the patriarchy is an evil tyranny, then the appropriate attitude towards any male ambition is to not treat it as ambition, but to treat it as nascent drive to tyrannical power, because it's all power. And so if you see some young man trying to stand up and better himself in any dimension, you're not going to trust that. You're going to identify that as the manifestation of tyrannical power. And clearly, if the patriarchy is a malevolent tyrant, then any sign of the desire to contribute to it should be, at minimum, not encouraged, but more subtly criticized and discouraged at every possible opportunity. And that's our culture.